are anonymous. We do not serve kings, we do not worship false idols, and we do not bow to those who think power is a birthright. Tonight we hold up a mirror and let the record speak. What happened last night in Mississippi is not the headline the Chirons chose, but it is the headline that explains the rest. If you came for noise, you will be disappointed. If you came for clarity, settle in. And if you believe in the simple promise from the earliest chapters of this country, no taxation without representation, then you already understand why this moment matters more than all the performative outrage that flooded your feed this morning. Start where the spectacle wants to distract you. Bill Maher once framed the cultural lag of American politics by reminding people that when his mother was born, women could not vote. Not someone from a dusty branch of a family tree, but his mother. He flipped that memory into an indictment of how power talks to us now. He asked if the caricatures once used to demean women in the 1950s, irrational, pouty, vain, thin-skinned, hysterical, not that bright, remind us of anyone today. Then he drew the line straight to Donald Trump, who boasts about being a world-class complainer. You remember the clip because the line is too on the nose to forget. I am a whiner, and I am a whiner, and I keep whining and whining until I win. This is the show that never ends. Sue over a late-night joke. Claim every loss was stolen. Blur grievance with governance until you cannot tell which is which. It is an act, but it is also a tell. It tells you where to look next. Look past the chorus. Ignore the ritual complaints about stolen elections and mythical armies of fraudulent voters. Ignore the breathless insistence that a Muslim socialist secretly runs the country. Those lines are not arguments. They are a fog machine. They are pushed louder on the days when the math, the maps, and the law are not on the side of the people holding the megaphone. And last night in Mississippi, the math, the maps, and the law were not on their side. Here is what actually happened. In a state long written off as too deep red to matter, Democrats flipped 2 seats in the state Senate and cracked the Republican supermajority. They added a seat in the state house as well. That shift did not fall from the sky. It followed a chain of events that began years earlier, when the Mississippi NAACP filed suit arguing that the maps drawn by those in power diluted black voting strength. Even though black Mississippians make up a massive share of the state, the lawsuit did not ask for special treatment. It asked for what the country promises on paper, equal weight for equal citizens. That case led to a panel of federal judges ordering fairer lines, including more majority-minority districts. Only then did these special elections happen. When the rules are not tilted, representation becomes visible. When representation becomes visible, different people win. Say the names because the names tell the story. Theresa Izom took Senate District 2. Johnny Dupree took Senate District 45. Justin Crosby took House District 22. Outcomes that conventional wisdom would have dismissed as unrealistic inside. The old lines became reality under maps that had to answer to the law instead of a party caucus. These are not isolated dots on a board. They are the predictable result of removing a thumb from the scale. They are what happens when you stop pretending that a line on a map is neutral simply because it looks technical. This is the part where you pause and ask yourself how long this pattern has been hiding in plain sight. For years, people in Mississippi and across the South have been told that the outcome is a cultural inevitability. This is just how it is down here. That is the most useful sentence ever invented by those who profit from unfair maps. It makes suppression sound like climate. It turns a man-made strategy into weather. But maps are not weather. They are designed. When you rerun the election under maps that were drawn to carve up communities, the outcome you get is the outcome the map was designed to deliver. When you force the map to answer to the Voting Rights Act, you get a different result. It is not magic. It is math. Now ask why the noise spiked today. When do you hear the loudest complaining about stolen elections? You hear it when special elections under new lines begin to reflect the people who live in those lines. You hear it when majority-minority districts stop being a theory and start electing officials who talk like, think like, and legislate for the people they represent. You hear it when the old supermajority wakes up to find it is now a normal majority and in some chambers, a plurality that needs to earn votes instead of assuming them. That is when the fog machine turns up, not because of fraud, but because the advantage is gone. You can chart this across the region, as federal judges look at maps through the lens of the law rather than through a party playbook. We see a sequence of rulings correcting long-running dilution schemes. Sometimes it is a state house. Sometimes it is a state senate. Sometimes it is even a state Supreme Court map. Each ruling says the same quiet thing out loud. The districting regime was not fair. The burden of proof was not met. The remedy will be lines that give voters the weight they were promised. The moment those lines hit the ground, races become competitive. In some places, the dam breaks immediately. In others, the shift is gradual as organizations recruit, train, and support candidates who can meet the moment. Mississippi is not an outlier. It is a case study. So what changed on the ground? First, the opportunity became real. Candidates who would never have run in the old districts suddenly had a reason to. A door that was painted shut got pried open. The Mississippi NAACP did not win a vibe shift. They won a venue where votes could matter. The second change was organizational. Groups like the Working Families Party have been building local and state benches for years. They do not just drop mailers and disappear. They recruit, train, and show up again and again. When the lines finally allowed it, they were ready. The third change was psychological. Voters who have been trained by experience to believe that their ballot is a symbolic act that will be overruled by the map began to see outcomes shift. That is a feedback loop with power. When people see that their vote can change a Senate from a supermajority to a regular majority, they tell their neighbors. Turnout patterns are not destiny. They are responses to credible signals about whether participation matters. This is where Donald Trump re-enters the frame, not as a unique villain, but as a useful amplifier. What he offers his followers after nights like this is not a plan. It is a permission structure for never asking hard questions. You do not have to examine how districts were drawn. You do not have to reckon with why a panel of judges found violations. You do not have to ask why communities that make up a large slice of your state have been underrepresented for decades. You do not have to fix any of it. You only have to repeat the catechism. Stolen, rigged, witch hunt. If the numbers disagree, the numbers are corrupt. If the courts disagree, the courts are deep state. If the voters disagree, the voters are illegitimate. That is not a governing philosophy. It is an emotional blanket. It is a wine factory with a gold logo. But here is the thing about reality. It does not bend to the volume of your complaint. When the lines are lawful, when the suits are won, when the special elections are held, when the ballots are counted, somebody still sits in those seats. Teresa Esom still holds Senate District 2. Johnny Dupree still holds Senate District 45. Justin Crosby still holds House District 22. The Republican caucus still loses its supermajority math. Committee chairs still notice. Lobbyists still adjust. Governors still recalculate what is possible and what is not. Veto-proof coalitions become coalition-building sessions. Budgets become negotiations instead of coronations. This is how structural change looks on day one. It is not fireworks. It is leverage moving in real time. Let us widen the frame one more notch. What does this mean for states beyond Mississippi? It means that the argument about redistricting is not a niche legal fight. It is the front door of representation. It means that when you see a state legislature race decided by a handful of votes inside a district drawn to funnel certain voters into political cul-de-sacs, you are not looking at a quirk, you are looking at design. It means that the organizations doing the unglamorous work of suing for fair maps are not side characters, they are architects. It means that when courts order more majority-minority districts, they are not doing identity politics. They are enforcing a promise that the ballot each citizen casts should have equal force. And it means that when the fog machine tells you that nothing changed, you are supposed to forget that a supermajority just became a normal majority because a map changed. Now bring it back to the human scale, because policy without people is just paperwork. A senator from a newly competitive district votes differently when the voters who sent them there can send them home. A committee chair cannot ignore a block of lawmakers who now hold the swing. A budget item that was once a message bill dies quietly when the numbers slip. That is not because hearts grew 3 sizes in one night. It is because incentives did. And if you want to know why the old guard is shouting about theft today, consider what they just lost. The ability to pass whatever they want and dare the governor to veto it. The ability to shrug at communities that have been underserved because those communities could not touch them. The ability to legislate by muscle memory. All of that gets smaller the moment a supermajority dies. There is also a lesson in how these wins were framed. National outlets summarize the shift as part of a broader rebuke of Donald Trump and congressional Republicans. Local outlets cataloged who won where and what that meant for the chamber. Both are true, but do not miss the engine under the hood. The lawsuits, the court orders, the remedial maps, the special elections, those are the gears. The messaging wars come and go, but the gears keep turning. If you invest in the gears, you change outcomes even when the airwaves are hostile. If you ignore the gears, you are surprised by nights like this, and you write them off as random. There will be more fights. In every state where maps are being challenged, in every appeal where those who draw the lines try to keep them tilted, in every late-night committee where district descriptions get amended by hand, there will be more nights like this to win or to lose. Do not be fooled by the length of the process. Those who benefit from unfair maps count on fatigue. They count on you deciding that cartography is too boring to matter. They count on you scrolling past the updates because the language is technical. They count on you confusing weather with design. They count on you forgetting that the Voting Rights Act is not a relic, but a living set of tools that communities can still use. The people who won last night did not forget. They filed. They argued. They organized. They ran. And they won. There is one more reason the fog machine screams theft after nights like this. It protects pride. If you are a leader who built your brand on inevitability, if your donors were promised permanent dominance, if your base was told that the other side can only win by cheating, then a lawful loss is more than a setback. It is an exposure. It tells your followers that the world you described is smaller than reality. It tells them that you did not control as much as you said you did. It tells them that the neighbors you painted as powerless just changed your math. Rather than offer a strategy, you offer an alibi. Stolen, rigged, witch hunt. If all else fails, bring out your best line. I am a whiner and I keep whining until I win. But whining is not a plan. It is a lullaby for the already convinced. So what do we do with a night like this? We learn the right lesson. That fair rules alter power. That lawsuits matter. That judges matter. That maps matter. That when communities who have been undercounted and over-policed and underrepresented are given districts where their collective voice is real, they send people to the capital who carry that voice in their pocket. That when enough of those people sit down at enough tables, budgets move, agendas move, lives move. We also learned that nothing about this was inevitable. It took the Mississippi NAACP deciding to sue. It took organizers deciding to recruit. It took candidates deciding to run. It took voters deciding to show up after years of being told that showing up changes nothing. Those decisions produced last night. Those decisions can produce more nights like it. If you are listening from a state where every cycle feels the same, where the same people win by the same margins under the same suspiciously tidy lines, ask the simplest question. Has anyone tested those lines against the law? If they have, support them. If they have not, ask why not. If the answer you get is that this is just how it is here, remember Mississippi. Remember that weather is not design and design is not weather. Remember that when a panel of judges looked at the lines and said no, the lines changed, and then the legislature did too. Remember that supermajorities are not supernatural. They are arithmetic. And if you came here for a moment of defiant joy, you are allowed one. Because last night the story that was not supposed to matter ended up mattering most. Because last night in a state that outsiders dismiss and insiders exploit, maps were forced to honor people. And people used that honor to flip seats, and those seats kicked a leg out from under a table that had stood too long on tilted ground. Because last night the old chorus screamed theft and fraud while the actual ballots told a simpler truth. When the rules are fair, the outcomes look different. We are anonymous. We watch the levers power hides behind, and we call them out by name. If you want more reporting that cuts through the noise and puts receipts on the table, like this video, share it, subscribe, and drop a comment about where you want us to look next. Stay loud, stay curious, and stay frosty.